Hello, Samson here. Another interesting segment on book reviews. This is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. In his introduction, he says the premise of the book is that doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are and has a lot to do with how you behave. And behavior is, however, hard to teach, even to really smart people. So organizing folk with no financial education can be wealthy if they have a foundation on behavioral skills that have nothing really to do with formal measures of intelligence. Financial success isn't a hard science. It's a soft skill where how you behave is more important than what you know. And this soft skill is called the psychology of money. So history doesn't repeat itself, but man does. In chapter 1, Morgan Housel talks about no one is crazy. So he says people do some crazy stuff with money, but no one is crazy. Everyone has their own experience that is on how the world and money works. The challenge for us is that no amount of studying or open-mindedness can genuinely release the power of fear and uncertainty. What you're doing seems crazy, but I kind of understand why you're doing it. So this uncovers the root of money, of our financial decisions. We all do crazy stuff with money, quite all right. That's because we all are new to this game and are unable to make decisions, or we rather make decisions based on our own experiences, which seem to make sense to us at a particular moment. So basically, no one is crazy. What we usually do is we relate to money in a manner that on how we've been raised, actually, to look at how to raise money and how to relate to money. In chapter 2, he talks about luck and skill. And then there are two people he uses for references. So there is Bill Gates, and then there is another guy whom he uses as an example to look at the differences between what luck does and what risk is about. So he says nothing is as good or as bad as it seems. So Bill Gates experienced 1 in a million luck by ending up at Lakeside, while Kent Evans, the guy he talked about, Kent Evans experienced 1 in a million risk by never getting to finish what he and Gates set out to achieve. So what differentiates the two is Bill Gates had luck and Kent had risk, if we were to look at it from chapter 2's point of view. So the same force, the same magnitude working in opposite directions, basically. So luck and risk are both the reality that every outcome in life is guided by forces other than individual efforts. So they are so similar that you cannot believe in one without equally having the other. If you give luck and risk their proper perspective, you realize that when judging people's financial success, both your own and others, it's never as good or as bad as it seems. So when judging others, attributing someone's success to luck makes you look jealousy of them and it makes you look mean. While on the other hand, when you attribute it to yourself, it's something that demoralizes you and demeans you, so to say. But studying people who made it and who didn't make it, we come to learn that the dangerous part of it is we are all trying to learn about what works and what doesn't work with money. That is why we get to hear a lot about do what he did, don't do what she did, and stuff like that. So the two takeaways from Luck and Risk from Bill Gates and from Kent Evans are: one, be careful how you praise and admire. Be careful who you look down to and you look upon to. And then the second lesson we learn from there is focus on specific individuals and case studies, and more on broad patterns. So focus on the broad outcomes, because when you tend to focus on individuals, most of the times what happens is we are just biased off certain things. In chapter 3, we talk about never having enough. So in relation to risk, he says there is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. And then some three takeaways that you can have from here. The hardest financial skill is getting the goalpost to stop moving. And then number two is social comparisons in the problems here. And then we also have enough is not too little. That is one of the things you're supposed to get from there. And then there are many things never worth risking, no matter how the potential gain might look. So there are people who risk what they need for things that they do not need. But if we're to make it financially, then basically we're supposed to look at it from a perspective that enough is just enough and it shouldn't go any further beyond that. In his chapter number 4, Compounding and Confounding, he gives us a literal example of Warren Buffett. So he says 81.5 billion of Warren Buffett's 84.5 billion net worth came after his 65th birthday. Our minds are not built to handle such absurdities. So the thing is, if something has to compound, then it needs time. So the example of Warren Buffett is basically giving us a practical application of where time actually falls when it comes to confounding. And so you do not need tremendous force in order to create tremendous results. The basic thing is, if a little growth can serve as a fuel for future growth, so a small starting base can lead to results so extraordinary that seem to defy logic. At the end of the day, it's about earning pretty good returns that you can stick with and which can be repeated over a long period when compounding actually goes wild. Talking about getting wealthy and staying wealthy, that's in chapter 5 of The Psychology of Money. He says good investing isn't necessarily about making good decisions, it's about consistency and not screwing up. So the idea behind is, it's one thing actually to get wealth, and it's another thing to stay wealthy. Yeah, but keeping money requires what he says the opposite of taking the risk. So getting money requires taking risks, but being optimistic and putting yourself out there. Then he says, but keeping money requires the opposite of taking risks. That is, it requires humility, a very important point that we need to take note of. And as human beings, this is a quality that we actually lack most of the times, but it requires humility and fear that what was made can easily be taken away from you. So here again, survival goes on, where
we say it's not growth or brains or insight. So the ability to stick around for a long time without wiping out or being forced to give up is what makes the biggest difference in wealth keeping and creation, right? So yeah, that is the basic thing behind keeping wealth and creating wealth. Talking about Tell Us You Win in chapter 6 of the book, Morgan says, you can be wrong half the time and still make a fortune. So it's okay, you can make mistakes from one time to another, but at the end of the day, it's very possible to make a fortune. Now, anything that is huge, profitable, famous, or influential is the result of a tale or an event, an outlying one in thousands of millions of events. So basically, the idea here is that tales drive everything. Freedom. Controlling your time is the highest dividend money can ever pay you. At the end of the day, what we want is the different things. It's a subjective matter. So from person to person, it differs. But the highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every day, every morning, and say, I can do whatever I can do. Because happiness is something that's complicated because it's different for everyone, right? But then, if you want to have freedom over your life, when it comes to money, it's basically because money is going to help you to get some more time, so to say. So the rich make their money work for them instead of them working for the money. And then everyone wants to have freedom so that they can be able to do what they want, when they want, with who they want, and wherever they want. So that is a basic idea. All right, so for the rest of the chapters, we might do another review on the psychology of money. Till then, it's bye bye for now.